Hi, my name is Richard Crawford, host of Supply and Demand, an enlightening webcast show where we delve into the dynamic world of the global supply chain, where we navigate through the complexities, disruptions, and innovations that shape this vital network of interconnected businesses. From sourcing raw materials to delivering finished products, we'll uncover the challenges that arise at each stage and explore the strategies for optimizing efficiency and sustainability. And each week, we'll highlight and discuss a specific supply chain event. And of course, I'm joined each episode by my co-host and CEO of the Atlas Network and now author of the Supply Chain Ups and Downs, Mr. Kareem Kafuri. How are you doing, buddy?
Hey, Richard. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Both of us have just returned from Vegas.
Yeah, I know. I feel like we're now both in the hot seat. We gotta remember how to do this thing. It's been a little bit since we've had our last episode, and yeah, we had a good time in Vegas, you and I, although we were there for separate reasons, right?
Yeah. I was there for work and you were there just to have fun. So
yeah, right. I do feel like, and I feel like so strange in saying this, but I feel like Vegas has almost become like a bit of a second home for me because I've been to so many conferences in the last couple of months, and they all seem to all be in Vegas. So what were you doing in Vegas? I'll tell you a little bit about what
I was at
doing.
IMEX, which is a huge events planners event. Well, it's event planners meet with these hotels around the world. Like the biggest global event I've ever been to. And these hotels in different countries sell their wares to people who plan events, mice in the mice industry, meetings, incentives, blah, blah, blah. I don't even know what it all means,
Oh
but it was
no.
fun. I did a couple of presentations. What was actually a really cool thing, having my presentation, there's a group of people there who listen to your presentation. And at the end, they do a 3-minute wrap. They do it
Oh,
right
that's
there.
cool.
They create it right there as a listing and do a 3-minute wrap. It's pretty cool. Maybe we'll post it on the site sometime.
That's a good
Yeah,
idea.
because
Good idea.
it's fun to listen to. But let's not keep our guests waiting too long. So let's bring in our guest now. You ready?
Absolutely, no
All
problem.
right. All right. So our guest today is Gregory Braun, co-founder and chief revenue officer at C3 Solutions. And Greg has over 35 years of experience in the transportation logistics industry, in which the last 24 years focused on yard dock management solutions. His vast expertise and industry knowledge have been an invaluable asset in the opening new markets for C3's products over the last 2.5 decades. But more importantly, Greg plans to retire soon and get his tour card to play golf professionally in Scotland. Greg, welcome to the show.
Hey, well, thanks a lot, guys. Jeez, Richard, I don't know. That's the lofty goal that you set for me there.
We'll just clarify that you're actually not about to retire in case you start getting calls
No,
from people.
no, that's true. It is on the mind though, but we're not there yet. I'm having too much fun right now, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, you'd have a lot more fun playing golf, right?
Tell me about that. I tell you, the whole job thing gets in the way of golfing, but hey, we got to make a living.
So speaking of job thing, Greg, give us a little insight into what's going on in your world today and what's going on with C3.
Well, I mean, C3, as you mentioned, Richard, I mean, C3 is a software company, and we specialize in the area of yard management and dock scheduling. We've recently come out with a driver collaboration product, which is kind of a very nice way that everything links up together. So our collaboration product is called C3 Hide. So it's kind of a bit of the ecosystem that kind of connects all the pieces for us. So on our dock scheduling platform, we've got a lot of carriers, we got a lot of suppliers that are coming online trying to book appointments, and then this new product allows us to do all kinds of different things within that community, of which the most recent thing we're doing is just allowing drivers to trying to improve their experience when they get to the site. So we have a means for them to self-check-in, same kind of concept that we do when we show up at the airport, and it wasn't that long ago that, showing up at the airport was a major stressful thing. And now you just check in with your phone, you get a text, it's all good, right? So we've replicated that experience at the warehouse, because that still, unfortunately, is a very stressful experience for truck drivers. Yeah. So that's some of the things that we're doing right now. Like I said, we're having a lot of fun doing it. So it's it's been great.
Yeah, I guess
Greg,
especially when they're under such time restraints,
yeah.
being able to come in and flash a QR code and get yourself in and get yourself done. Yeah, I can imagine that's much
Yeah.
better for the drivers.
No, exactly.
Well,
Exactly. I was,
I was going to actually comment on what Richard just said for a minute, that I've been saying for a long, long time that the last mile should be the first concern for so many businesses, and
yeah,
that how critical and how important the role of the truckers are in this process. And exactly for what you're saying, that, if you can't get those truckers in and out and in an efficient manner, then it creates this whole traffic jam that goes all the way back to the ports, and then all the way back to the on the sea, and then back to the manufacturer. And it really creates this entire domino effect that a lot of people don't really understand or know. And so really making sure that these truckers have a very efficient path, of kind of getting in and getting out and getting back and getting another container and getting back, and so on and so forth, in a very effective manner, I think is such an overlooked part of the supply chain process, but it absolutely wreaks havoc on the entire supply chain. And
oh
we saw
yeah,
during the pandemic, big time, when there weren't truckers at all, let alone truckers being able to do it in an effective, efficient manner, because people weren't at work and people couldn't get things from the ports and they couldn't do what they needed to do. So, I mean, I think it's a very, very important part of the process that you're talking about here.
no, exactly. And I did a presentation a couple of months ago, and I had this great graphic, or my marketing department found me this great graphic where, and I mean, and we're all old enough to remember this, where that one time when you're really stressed on time and you're thinking, well, okay, it shouldn't. I've given myself an hour and a half, and you show up at the airport and there's this massive lineup, right? And it all happened to us, and you're just like, I'm going to miss my flight, and so and you go through that massive stress. And the thing is, though, that's most truck drivers' day, world every day.
Yeah,
Every day, right? They show up at a location, their dispatch told them, yeah, don't worry, you don't need an appointment there, just show up there. Yeah, them and everyone else. And they're in this long queue, and they're looking at, like they've got other deliveries to do, and it's just that's their world every single day.
Or the client isn't expecting them at that time because communication hasn't happened effectively. So, I mean, I've had so many clients of mine where, because the communication was not properly done between the trucker and the delivery time window, whatever, it wreaks havoc for the trucker, because they come and they only give you 1 or 2 hours of kind of free time to unload. And it wreaks havoc on the client, who basically is like, oh, we don't have our people here to work the forklifts, to get the things off the truck and the pallets, so that these guys can get out of here and we can get the stuff in there. And it's really, really a mess if the coordination isn't done right. And sometimes people have to come back an extra day, or sometimes they have to take extra hours where the client has to pay for it because it wasn't organized. And then the guy misses his next shipment and his next shipment. And it's a domino effect, like I was saying before, for sure.
You sometimes wonder how it works at all, don't you? Like it's.
I mean, it's like, Karim, you must have been at that presentation I gave. That was exactly those are the scenarios
my life is that presentation. My life is that presentation, because we've got all these clients in my business, which is the Atlas Network. Global Supply Chain Solutions is what we do. And we help clients from the idea on the napkin all the way until it delivers to a warehouse or fulfillment center. So the entire life cycle. So although we don't run trucks or manage trucks, it's absolutely an essential part of the mechanism, where in the end, unless those goods get to that client on time and in the condition they were meant to be, like, everything was for naught. It didn't matter if it was done well or was accelerated on the sea, or, got through customs quickly, and so on and so forth. If it doesn't get from that port to that final delivery site in an effective manner, like, everything else falls apart. So I
exactly
understand it and get it.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we do at C3, right? So, I've talked about the driver, the driver check-in process, but before that, we had to provide that carrier a very strategic appointment. And that appointment isn't just like they logged on, it's like, wow, it's my lucky day, I got a slot. It's no, the slot that we gave you is based on the priority of the goods that you're bringing, the how the warehouse actually wants to deal with those goods. Like, maybe it's floor loaded, right? So we know that we can only handle so many of those in at the beginning, and we want those to show up at the beginning of the shift and all these kind of things. So that there is, it all seems kind of, at the end of the day, it's kind of, oh, I've got an appointment, I show up. It's like, yeah, but it's, there's a science behind all of this. And yeah, that's, we've been doing that for 24 years. So
Yeah.
I always like to tell people, we're not really, we don't claim to be smarter than anybody else. It's just that after 24 years, you think you kind of figure it out a little bit, or, you get the hang of it. So that's what we do.
You figure out how to deal with high pressure situations. Speaking of which, Greg, let's talk about our next segment. How about that for a segue?
Okay.
So Greg, we're going to get into the hot seat for you right now.
Okay.
And the hot seat is basically you answering 3 questions as close to 5 minutes as you possibly can.
Okay.
The current record is pretty difficult to beat. I think it's within a second, isn't it, Kareem? Isn't it like either 5:01 or
it's like
59?
it's like 1 second or above or 1 second below 5 minutes.
Jeez, guys.
Very, very
You're not
Yeah,
giving
right.
me-
So we're not. So no. Look, you've been doing this for 25 years almost, Greg. This should be no problem to you. You've got this down.
Within a half second. I'm
Within
gonna
a
get
half
there.
second.
Do it.
Hey, that's the kind of parameters we're dealing with these days.
No, exactly.
All right, buddy. Are you ready? Let me get let me
Sure.
get the old stop clock ready, and we'll get you started. All right. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right, clock starts now. All right, question 1. What critical issue in the supply chain is being overlooked by supply chain leaders despite the potential to significantly impact operations?
Well, I mean, I think that's a great question. And I think it falls into exactly what we've been talking about. I think one of the key issues, and is the driver shortage problem. I mean, and it's, I know that, and Karim, you'll be able to agree with me on this. It's no longer the hot topic that it was, but the issues behind that, and you had mentioned that, during COVID, it was catastrophic, right? There were no drivers. And the source of that problem has not changed, right? So I think it's essentially a demographic issue in the fact that, the average age of a driver now is in, like 50 or something like it, 50 years old. But the crucial issue here, and there's been some great research that's been done by a gentleman by the name of David C.R.O. over at MIT, and his position, and he actually presented this in front of Congress at one point, is that it's not a driver. We don't have a driver shortage problem. We have a driver utilization problem, right? So, and what his research has shown is that, and what they went through it, they took them a couple of years to come up with this, is that the average driver actually is waiting. He loses 6.5 hours of his driving, because drivers have, so many hours they can drive in a day. They're losing six and a half hours per day waiting.
Wow.
At warehouses, like we were just talking about. So that I don't think right now the pressure's off. The economy slowed down a bit. We don't have as much of an issue there. So that problem has not gotten any better. So again, that's where C3 comes in. We've been talking that talk for quite a while now, and we've got to improve things at the warehouses and get drivers turned around, because I mean, when drivers aren't driving, they're not making money, right? So I think ultimately that's one of the reasons no one wants to be a trucker. I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but one of them is it's just not that, people don't believe, younger people don't believe it's a job where you can make a lot of money in. And if you're sitting in your truck waiting, you're not making money. And so yeah, that I think was a major issue, and it's going to have, if it's not resolved, it will have, as we go along here, that average age is going to get higher and higher. And there's just, we're not going to have any truck drivers out there.
All right, Greg, I got question number 2 for you. What practical strategies does C3 Solutions recommend to its customers for improving the driver throughput?
Well, again, we touched on it earlier. In essence, we believe that first thing you need to have a schedule, right? You need to have kind of you need to have an organized way of receiving these drivers. And then you need to be able to automate that process as much as possible, right? So, I've talked a little bit about what we do in terms of, the drivers. We give them the opportunity to check in advance. There's been a big push, especially during COVID, where we want to have a manless or an automated gate situation. And then we're utilizing also leveraging technologies like Vision AI, where we're able to capture a lot of that information, send the driver off onto his delivery point, keep in contact with him as well, say, hey, we've almost finished unloading or loading your trailer now. Now you can go to the transport office, pick up your documents. And so there's no more, hey, where is this guy? Hey, his trailer's been unloaded for an hour now. What's going on? We want to be able to expedite that whole driver experience as much as possible.
All right, quick answer here, Greg, because your time is running down. What's the most common misconception about supply chain automation, and why is it misleading?
Well, I mean, this is one that I think it's to a large part, it's maybe the fault of the media, is like they talk about automation and it's going to eliminate all these jobs and so forth. But I tell you, every conference that I ever go to, when people talk about automation, they're not talking about eliminating jobs. They're talking about reducing the need for jobs, because they can't find anyone, right? They can't. No one wants to work in a warehouse. As we've said, no one wants to drive a truck anymore. So we've got to find a viable solution to be able to replace this. I mean, when executives are going to their board of directors and saying, what's our long-term solution in terms of growth? If you don't have an automation story, you're just not going to make it. And that's what, I think that's a major misconception. And yeah, that's it.
Ooh. You didn't get it within half a second, but you're pretty down. But 503.
Oh,
so that's the second closest we've had. Like, that's pretty close. I was going to cut you off on that last sentence. As let him. I was going to cut you off. Well done, well done, mate. That's pretty good. Pretty good.
Oh, thanks.
Greg, so what do you guys have on the docket for the rest of this year or coming into next year? I mean, this is a off the clock question, but I mean, what's kind of interesting? What are you looking at?
Well, I mentioned the kind of the ecosystem that we're building. We're really interested in that whole collaboration aspect of things. I know there's been, and the name of the council fails me for the moment, but there's a new scheduling API that's out there now that is a standardized API, so that shippers and carriers are able to send us a standardized. It's almost like EDI 3.0 or whatever you want to call it, so that we're really excited about automating that whole process as much as possible, so that a carrier can send us an automatic appointment request. As long as they fit within the parameters, we're going to approve it for them. So again, in terms of automation, this is a situation where there's no clerk that's going online and keying in information. We're receiving electronic feed. We're sending it back to the carrier. Then that driver gets the message to say, hey, this is your assignment. And you can check in on your phone when he gets there. Again, we're going to expedite him through the gate as quickly as possible. We're going to stay in communication. So kind of putting that all together is some of the things that we're working on right now. And we're all really excited about it. It's because we manage probably in excess of about 10 million appointments per year. So there's a lot of opportunity there to kind of improve that whole situation. So yeah, that's what we're excited about.
I'm very interested about the realm of the self-driving trucks, and basically a situation where, I mean, literally the trucking industry shifts to a completely automated robotic, process where a self-driving truck is loaded. It essentially has, it's given coordinates, it's given time frames of when to show up. It pulls up, basically a door opens, some kind of a automatic conveyor system or some kind of a situation kind of pulls the pallets off, drops them off, and gives you a little notification alert, similar to when people drop things off for Amazon Prime at your doorstep, that says your packages have been delivered, and then then go from there. I mean, the client's aware it's on the way. They can see the truck routing to there. They can just in the way that you would get a shipment otherwise. And then, possibly maybe some of this gets a little bit more streamlined in some ways too. But I don't know how far away we are from that.
Well, you know what? I don't either, but I can tell you one thing about it though. In the yard, we're getting very close, because think of the yard as kind of a microcosm of the actual transportation world. And there's a lot of solutions out there now. Like there's a lot of companies providing autonomous yard trucks.
Yeah.
So from our point of view, we're just saying, hey, bring it on, because we've always said that, we just want the driver to drive. We don't, we're sure these are very intelligent people, but we're not relying on their intelligence. We're optimizing what's the best task for them to actually, what's the next best move for them. And oftentimes they're gonna argue, say, oh, that wasn't it. And they'll come in and we'll show them on the whiteboard. No, that was the best move, really. You didn't see it, but it was the best move. So if we've got a autonomous vehicle doing this, hey.
Yeah, and then I would assume that 6 hours of waiting time gets dramatically reduced per day, as well as any bathroom breaks, and as well as any lunch breaks, and so
cigarette
on.
Cigarette break.
Well, you know what?
All of which an autonomous vehicle doesn't have, brings all that efficiency. So I could see some very unique innovations with.
I guess just to play the devil's advocate a little bit. I mean, autonomous vehicles, if something goes wrong with a cab, that's different than something going wrong with an 18-wheeler truck. So I guess they have to make sure that everything is in place to avoid any kind of catastrophe like that.
Yeah, well, again, that's why we're excited about, because I think all of this technology, the real test bed is probably going to be the yard, right? Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. It's a close environment. We can control it as much as we want. So yeah, it's going to, and already there are quite a few solutions out there. Yeah. So there's people doing kind of the it's a semi-automatic, where, and you've probably seen this in the shows like Manifest, where there's guys driving like the Nintendo, little steering wheel, and they're controlling they're controlling trucks. Because some of them are driving on their own, and when they get to the final backing up stage, some guys on a Nintendo unit kind of backing it up. So that's already there, right?
Yeah, right.
So we're not far from having totally autonomous yard trucks, and that's really exciting for us.
So ultimately, the message is to kids out there: keep playing those video games. There's a job out there for you eventually.
Job security, and video games. Yeah, well, we can't thank you enough, Greg, for the interview today, and Ricky will sort of take us out here.
Yeah. So just real quick, Greg, how can people get a hold of you and your company?
Well, you know what? The best thing is just to go see us on the web. So c3solutions.com. I'm on LinkedIn if someone wants to get in touch with me on LinkedIn. But yeah, that's the best thing. And we try to put a lot of just general content out there in terms of, we try to take a bit of a leadership role in our little domain. So you go to our resource center, you're going to see a lot of just generally good content about, we're not pitching anything there. We're just talking about some of the issues we've discussed today. So, we've put that out there. So yeah, I encourage anyone to go out there and check out our resource center on our website. And yeah, or, by all means, get in touch with me on LinkedIn as well.
Cool. Kareem?
Yeah, for me, our company is theatlasnetwork.com. Also, if you have any information or want any information about the book that I recently put out, which is Supply Chain Ups and Downs, it's supplychainupsanddowns.com. And other than that, I'm on LinkedIn, and look forward to speaking with anybody about any supply chain solutions issues they may have and how we may be able to help.
Thanks, Kareem. And of course, to our audience, follow us and watch our show on the Supply and Demand Show on LinkedIn and on YouTube. So thanks, guys. Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Kareem. Appreciate you guys taking the time today, and we'll chat soon.